Something about Islam in particular that drew you to it, other than, like, I don't know, is there something that you really, really found beautiful or just different to the Christian faith?
Yeah, definitely. But it wasn't one thing that I went, oh wow, I'm going to convert to Islam now and change my life. It was a lot of small things that helped me to realize that, wow, like, this is actually the truth. And it came from small things. I think starting with Christianity, reading more into Christianity and seeing in the Old Testament, women are actually meant to cover their hair when they pray, and then starting to implement that myself, and then seeing how the other Christians are like, no, that was, people just did that because that was a cultural norm at the time.
What was it that, what was the first thing that introduced you to Islam?
The first thing that introduced me to Islam. So I guess going back even before converting to Islam in 2016, all throughout high school I was involved within the Uniting Church and preaching, and I was actually meant to go into ministry 1 year after, in the year that I converted to Islam. I was meant to go into ministry school with a scholarship and become an ordained minister. But as I started to do my research into Christian theology deeper and deeper, I started finding a lot of holes within it and asking a lot of questions, as you may have done yourself, and a lot of contradictions within the theology and things that don't add up. And for a while there, I just didn't know what the world was or why I was here. And then alhamdulillah, I had some friends who were Muslim, and they introduced me to their sisters, and I started learning Islam through their family, alhamdulillah. And started seeing, because Islam is an Abrahamic faith as well, as same as Christianity, and I had never really seen the similarities before. And once those similarities started being opened up to me, and I started seeing the similarities between, Jesus alayhi salam and all of this, it was a shock to me, and that's kind of how it started. That's how that journey began.
Wow. Was there something about Islam in particular that drew you to it, other than, like, I don't know, is there something that you really, really found beautiful or just different to the Christian faith?
Yeah, definitely. But it wasn't one thing that I went, oh wow, I'm going to convert to Islam now and change my life. It was a lot of small things that helped me to realize that, wow, like, this is actually the truth. And it came from small things. I think starting with Christianity, reading more into Christianity and seeing in the Old Testament, women are actually meant to cover their hair when they pray, and then starting to implement that myself, and then seeing how the other Christians are like, no, that was, people just did that because that was a cultural norm at the time. And also looking further into the way that we're supposed to pray as Christians as well, and just being around the Muslim family that I was introduced to, and just seeing their mannerisms and the way that they implemented Islam into their life, it just became more apparent that Islam was the truth.
Mashallah, that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So how long of a process do you think it was? Was it a long process learning about Islam, or was it, like you said, you learnt things as you went along, and being exposed to this family? Was it a really long process of a few months, or was it a year?
Yeah, I would say it was over the period of almost a year. But being a teenager as you are, you're quite impulsive with your decisions. You're like, I'm being Muslim, that's it. Tomorrow, khalas, I'm putting hijab on. But
How old were you?
I had just turned 18.
Wow, so quite young.
Quite young.
I think I became Muslim in 2016, but I was about 22, 23.
Yeah, a little bit older.
A little bit older.
Mashallah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, for me, it was a little bit different. I became Muslim. For me, it was more about creation and praying. I actually started praying before I took my shahada. So I really wanted to, be dutiful to Allah for everything that He had given me, all the blessings that I had been given. And I think it was about a 6-month journey before I put a headscarf on.
Mashallah.
But as a revert, it can be quite difficult, making that transition.
Definitely.
Was it a long journey for you when you decided to wear the headscarf? I know you said that you wanted to do everything ASAP.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was one of my faults, that I think I rushed into things very, very quickly. I was like, no, khalas, I've done my shahada. I'm going to put hijab on. I'm eating halal, and that's how it is.
I think it can be very exciting as well, though.
It is.
You're learning all these new things, right? I mean, you'd already learnt things previously through your religion, but you want to do right and you want to do everything correct. So you just look at everything and go, I'm going to do this right now. But mashallah, you seem obviously quite strong.
And yourself as well. I know you've been through your fair share of hardships as well.
I mean, it is always difficult. Change is always difficult, especially for family.
Exactly. Very true.
Was it quite difficult for you when you decided to become Muslim?
Yeah, of course. I think anyone who decides to change their life to that factor, definitely. There are a lot of difficulties and a lot of complications along the way, but alhamdulillah, it's getting better now.
Yeah, inshallah, it only gets better.
Yeah.
I think for me, the headscarf was what made it a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, definitely.
Before that, I think my family didn't really take me seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
They were kind of like, oh, okay, just put that to the back of our heads until it really challenged their ideals and their, you know.
Yeah, because when they start seeing a physical difference in their daughter, it really starts to get parents upset sometimes. That they really start to see, oh wow, it's a shock, you know, our daughter is taking this seriously and she is changing with her decision. But,
wow. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, as the years go on, it slightly gets better, but there's always those tricky things that happen that you kind of have to brush up on that with them and just discuss it with them. I mean, it's always a work in progress, but
that's why I would definitely recommend for someone who is converting, you need to really open those lines of communication with your parents and with your family, and you need to explain to them, you know, from a very basic beginner level of what Islam is. And if they're Christian, I would definitely suggest opening with the comparisons between this is what Christianity is, this is what Islam is, and you really need to take your time. Because you know, it's not a good thing to break those family bonds, especially if you I guess the advice we would give is don't rush it. You can take your time with this, because like you were saying, when you first take your shahada, you almost feel a strong conviction that you need to quickly change your life, and you need to learn to pray quickly. You need to put scarf on, you need to change the way that you are, and you know.
I think for me, I agree, but I also in terms of when I took my shahada, I kept it secret actually for a little bit. So I didn't want to tell my parents because I wanted to really keep it to myself so I could develop my confidence to actually tell them, and also to, you know, it's a big thing. You don't want any outside doubt so early on. So I kept it to myself for about a month. And then when I felt it was right, because obviously the connection between me and Allah, I felt that was really strong at the time, and I wanted to focus on that because it's such a unique feeling. For me, it was a little bit different. I wasn't a very strong Catholic, but I was Catholic, and I didn't really feel very connected to my faith. So when I became Muslim, it was like nothing I'd ever felt before. I felt so connected to God, and I really wanted to explore that further before I told my family, who undoubtedly such a big change.
Because in some regard, you're still trying to figure out all of these things for yourself, and it's almost hard to articulate to anyone else what is actually going on.
Because then you get all the big questions. I mean, you know, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to? What is it that's making you change? Can't you just be like everybody else?
like everyone else
in the family.
Why do you need to change?
But I think it came up a lot when I started to wear the headscarf, because obviously, like you said, it's such a contradiction to how they live their life. And it's so hard for them as well, right? We get so bogged down in, I feel like for us, we're focusing so much on our connection with Allah. And then when we need to tell our families about it, it's not that we are upset with the way that they react, but we obviously don't want them to be upset with us, and we also don't want to feel like we're going to waver in our faith. So it's such a big deal for everyone involved. But it's such a big process.
It is. It really is, because there's a lot of things that you have to come to terms with yourself, because it's not like you're just changing one thing, you're changing everything about yourself. You're not just changing a label, or I'm Christian and now I'm Muslim. You change everything about yourself to your inner core. You know, 100%. Your moral compass changes, your identity changes, the way you perceive life and the way you perceive you.